start recording. You know, so why have this this new school pop up, and then how can we take the best of what's happened from in the city, from Cincinnati Christian University? We can continue it. Let me just start this way, and it'll either go really well or really poorly. I don't know. Tell me some of the problem. Like, we think that higher ed and Christian higher ed is a little bit on a bubble, right? That kind of needed to pop. COVID is actually accelerating the pop. Everybody kind of knew that there were issues with higher education. Everybody kind of felt it for a few years, and again, COVID's kind of making it more dramatic. But what are some of those issues that people kind of always have with higher ed? You can just say them out right where you're at. Let's be messy for a few minutes. What are some of the issues with just kind of traditional higher ed as it sits?
As the parent of 2 recent CCU graduates, cost is probably one of the biggest obstacles, both in terms of tuition itself. In our case, we're a family that lives in Maryland, and so there was, transportation, and it cost not even just in the financial sense, but that it was a wonderful institution located in a city to which I have many fond ties, but an 8 or 9 hour drive away from where I am in Maryland. I continue to have both a strong heart interest here in Maryland and an even greater one in New York City. Bobby knows that that's where my roots are. And so for New Yorkers, there was always a small population of students there at Cincinnati, going back before my time in the 80s, all the way up to, in this most recent cohort of occasional, count them on the fingers of one hand, New Yorkers that made the trip out. But the obstacle of distance and cost, that kind of combination, financial cost and dislocation cost of needing to move across country, that was a problem for higher education overall, whether we're talking specifically about Cincinnati, Johnson, Hope International, Milligan, or broadening out to things like Messiah or Liberty. They were in a physical location, had beautiful physical buildings, and it meant that tuition was in the 5 figures and higher, and students were coming out with debt in the 5 figures, or sometimes even discouragingly higher than that.
Yeah, those are great, man. Those are some of the first ones that people mentioned. What else? What are some of the issues here we're facing?
I think it's the same thing with everything we seem to do, and it's just broken, which is when we kind of set up a building and we're like, okay, we got the building, now you come to me. So we do that in church. We do that like in everything. And we set up an institution, and it's like, okay, you have to come to us because we've got the building. And so we have what you need. We have the facilities. So you have to come to us. So to your point, I'm sorry, I need to click. Alex, I'm sorry, I didn't. The challenge is so huge. And I mean, we're talking about higher education. Now, when we add that layer to Christian, I mean, we're not talking, you could just go around the corner to the community college or to the school that would give you kind of what you need. We're talking about a very narrow, a very small bubble, as you put it, Bobby. Like, it's, I mean, it's a very small thing. So obviously Cincinnati had that benefit of a great school. For us who live in Cincinnati, that's awesome. But certainly not the case for a lot of other people. So I was just the echoing what Alex said, that, I think it's just, and to your point, the COVID has really caused us, I mean, the meetings that we're now having over, computers that we never thought we would be doing. Maybe we did it once a year just because we needed to or something, but now we're doing it all the time. And I think the idea of there just being that stationary building that we just expect everyone to just flock to, that's a challenge, certainly. So that wasn't an original thought, but it did spark that thought in my head. So
that's great. And I'm so intrigued by your hat. So both of those are happening simultaneously for me.
Thankfully, I am employed. The first part is not important, but the second part is very important.
That's good. All good thoughts.
This is for my good Baptist friends. They love this hat.
Rosina, any thoughts you'd add to those? Not sure if she's with us. So I'm going to keep going. But if you have some thoughts, Rosanna, you just jump right in. So we're the same way as you guys, right? We want ministry training to be amazing. We want it to make a difference, and we want it to not cost $1 million. And we want students to not graduate with debt. We want it to be applicable in their area, to make a difference in their church and in their world, and a host of other things. There's also been some other issues with higher ed that we've been wanting to look at for a good long time. So the idea is, we at the Russell School of Ministry, like I tell our team, hey, think of yourself as a nonprofit startup, and we're going to disrupt the market very purposefully. It needs to be popped at some point anyway. Everybody knows there's problems with higher ed and even Christian higher ed. So we're going to be part of that solution. And so one of the first things that happened when the guys came around and said, hey, can you lead this school? Can you make it happen? I said, well, if we're going to do it right, and it's really going to be effective, one of the first dominoes that needs to fall is that it needs to be 100% scholarship for every single student. Is there any way that it could be that we can make that happen? And so they kind of swallowed hard, the fundraisers. They're good at their job, but they kind of swallowed hard. They said, okay, we will commit that every single student that ever comes to the Russell School of Ministry will be 100% scholarship. Like once that domino fell, then a lot of other dominoes began to fall into place. Like, hey, we don't have to worry about, we have to have these students because we have to afford these buildings. We have to have this many students so we can afford these professors. We have to, play by all these different rules that every other school plays by. We kind of had the handcuffs fall off and said, you can literally do anything you want when you don't have to worry in those sectors. And that makes us unique. And I understand we're competing in a different way, but it needs to happen anyway. We need to be thinking differently about this. So great team, great couple guys that are going out and helping churches understand the need for this and kind of jump on board, and individuals as well, to create that funding so that we can do the things that kind of keep our hearts pure and help students graduate with zero debt. It burdens marriages. You guys know it burdens ministry. It's always in the back of your mind. Some guys are doing, a side hustle all the time because they have to. We want to take all that nonsense away and let these guys really function well in ministry. So the first thing we did is to say, hey, it's going to have to be affordable. We also, though, are brand new. So we don't have the ability to offer a degree right off the bat. And so what we decided we would do is, hey, let's take the best things that we do. We're going to offer some core courses, and we're going to offer a big fat internship. And that is our program, right? So in essence, it's like a certificate that we are offering. But we knew there's a lot of people that still want a college degree. So we reached out to our friends at Central, who have been helping us so much at the front end here, and Hope International, as you mentioned earlier, Alex. So we reached out to those two and said, hey, if we took our whole ministry program, would you just accept that as a big chunk of your degree for those students that actually want to kind of do the full bachelor's degree? And they were generous and gracious and said, yeah, we'll take that. So that's about 36 hours. If you, it's about a third of a degree that those colleges will accept as a big part of theirs, and you can get a bachelor's. So you can take it. There's certain staff members in churches that have said, hey, I already have a bachelor's degree. I don't need another bachelor's degree, but I love this. I don't have any ministry training, or I have some of my staff doesn't have ministry training. I'd really love for them to go through this. Or we have people that say, hey, I'm already working in a church. Why don't I just go through and be part of your internship program, because that's earning me college credit at these different schools. Why don't we head down that road? So we have the flexibility to do that. We've had a church already jump in that said, hey, we were going to do a leadership pipeline. Why don't we just make this our leadership pipeline? Because they're getting ministry training and they're getting eventual college credit for all of this stuff that they're doing. And we already have people that are working in it. So we have found some other demographics that we weren't even really hitting before. So best way to think about this is it's a program, it's a certificate that no one pays for. Like if they're receiving scholarships, we'll take them, we need them. But every single student at the end of the day ends up with a $0 bill from the Russell School of Ministry. That's just radically important to us. And they can just take that as it is. Or if they say, but I really want a college degree out of this, then they can go with one of our partners, do some things online or in person with them, and finish up their full degree. We're going to try our best to keep it urban, to keep it city focused. We know that a lot of statistics still point to, hey, if we don't take some ground in our cities, we're going to lose some major ground in the future. And so we're thankful to be in a city context and an urban context where we can, have students feel this out. A big part of our program, some of you know, Danny, because you've been living it for the last couple of years, half of our program is working with guys like you. To say, hey, I think the best way to prepare people for ministry is to have them do ministry alongside somebody that's proven in their field that can really pour into these guys well. And it's been fun to watch Andrew, Danny, under your guidance. Like he was not easy to please in the residency program, but man, he has latched on to you guys, and he's growing in the ways that we hoped and that he hoped he would at Sunrise. So he's really appreciating his time out there. So we're going to keep doing that kind of experiential part. And then those courses that we're teaching are going to be also a bit unique. And I can go into a lot more detail later, but the basic idea is we have these core classes that we think people ought to go through if they're really going to do ministry well. But one of my issues with higher ed is that it was always, one teacher. You're hearing just one learning style. And so in the new RSM, we're going to have lots of instructors that are going to filter into any given class. It's going to be very practical as far as what people are bringing in. Here's what I'm really doing with this whole online campus idea. And here's what I'm really doing in order to make a difference in youth ministry nowadays, because things are different than they were just a year ago. So it's all very based in kind of practical information that people that are living it day in and day out, instead of some of us who just like to write about it and be in our ivory tower. We're having people that are really living it in the trenches day in, day out, kind of combining the best of both of those worlds, so that students are really set up well in the courses. Anita runs the residency program side of it. So Anita, you want to talk a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yeah, so let me start a little bit with the backstory. So I told you earlier that I was on staff at Whitewater Crossing as the student director. And my path in the ministry was very non-traditional. And God led me into that ministry, and it was amazing. It was great. But I came upon two tensions that you probably have already experienced yourself. My first tension was so I left last July after being there almost 9 years. But about 4 years previous to that, the first tension really showed up, and that tension was that the world seemed to drastically change overnight. And it was no longer a society that faith in Jesus was priority. It was different. It was really different. And my head was constantly spinning. How do we reach the young people of this world? It was different. A second tension that I came across, that if you ever are fortunate enough and the hierarchy of the church says, yeah, we'll give you some budget to hire someone, you thank Jesus for that, right? Because you're tired and you need that extra help. But then the second tension was when I got the yes, go find that person, it was very hard to find that person. And so I started going through resumes, and what they had, what I call a lot of class cred, but no real street cred. And I could go through and I'm like, I knew that they loved Jesus. I could tell that, but they were not ready for the ministry in the world the way that it is. They were only ready for ministry in the way that the world was. And so it was a challenge. And so I go through that and finally pulled a trigger on hiring someone, and I would get them in there, and I would find myself for 2 years trying to train them for ministry. I needed somebody that could hit the ground running. I needed someone that could come in and do the job. But I had to spend 2 years training them, and it was a tension. It was a tension for me. I was frustrated. They did 5 years in school, some of them 4 or 5 years. They came in thinking I'm all ready, and they were frustrated because they weren't ready. So it was a real tension. So about a few years before I left Whitewater, I was told, hey, you're going to become a mentor. These VCU students are going to come. You're going to be a mentor for these students who want to go into youth ministry. I'm like, okay. I had no clue beyond that I was told someone was coming. But what I started seeing was that this actually could work, because they were walking alongside of me. I was teaching them everything that I knew, and that by the time they moved out, by the time they would graduate, they would be ready for ministry. And it was my ultimate goal to be able to hand them the keys. Like, here you go. The ministry is yours. You run with it now, bud. And so I thought that worked. So when I started to transition out and Bobby started knocking on my door like, hey, would you consider this? It was a no-brainer for me because I really believed in it, what was happening through the teaching church. And so I was really excited to be a part of Russell School of Ministry. I think one of the things that I didn't come into faith very traditionally. And as I would look from what I would say a very non-church background, I would often look in and go, how is this biblical? You know, how did we get here? Why did we think this worked? And so when I look at leadership training, and especially the residency part, I look at it it's the Jesus way. You send someone out and you have someone walk with them and mentor them. They walk with them 2 and 3 years, and they spiritually invest, emotionally invest, and they show them ministry. They challenge them. They stretch them. That's pretty much what Jesus did with those young guys that he took on for 3 years, right? He walked with them and he challenged them and he gave them opportunity, and then he released them. I kind of look at residency as doing it the Jesus way. Let's get them out there. Let's get them to experience it. So just a quick overview, Danny, it might be a little different for you, is that we're looking at a traditional residency of being 2 years now. They may do longer, but we're looking at as being traditionally 2 years, with the first year being 15 hours commitment at the site and the second year being 20-hour commitment at the site, with the second year being the one they're compensated for. Okay, so that's a little different than what you might have been used to. But
is
I think
that
go ahead.
Sorry. Is that second year, is that their senior year, junior year? How's that equate?
Yeah, it's a little differently because we're not really running in semesters. So I'm calling it kind of phases, and I'll be able to walk you through this. So we'll start school in August. We're going to have them for 4 months on campus, what we call campus at Russell School of Ministry. We got a location. And so we'll have them with us, working through some core competencies with them. And then they'll actually launch out to the site about January. So that first year, until we circle back around to August, that would be the first year, and then the second year. So it's kind of a first year, second year. If we find students that want to take a slower path, or they're not quite ready for residency, because the one thing we don't want to do is to send them to the site and they're not ready for that, we're doing something called residency, and we will extend that. So we may send them to your site for maybe 10 hours a week and say, hey, just treat them like a high cap volunteer, but they're not a resident yet. We need to make sure they're ready for residency. So it may be a little longer because of that, but again, that's not compensated.
And then the other thing, Anita, did you mention already that this is year round? I can't recall.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. One thing that I found as being a mentor is that I couldn't fully train them, because when Easter came, Christmas came in the summer, they pieced out. They were gone. And like, how can you train someone for the biggest movements in the church, Easter, Christmas, and summer, and they're gone? So the 2-year residency, it's year round. And so
that's like a football team not playing in the Super Bowl when they qualified for it. It's like, we'll take this Sunday off. It's like, this is kind of our big deal. Like, we kind of need you. Do you, obviously we're talking ministry focus, and that really is just a few things. When you really boil it down, there's, obviously worship, student ministry or children's ministry, that sort of thing. Do you have a good gauge of what people are coming into with their focus? Like, what are they really wanting to do? Do you have that yet? I know August is still a few months away, but I wasn't sure if you had that narrowed down yet, or.
I'm going to tell you, Danny, I'm really excited about these students that God is sending in. They got a fire in them that when I'm talking to them, I almost cry, because the Spirit of God in them is so exciting and refreshing. So some that we're seeing, they're already out there doing it. They're in the streets doing it. They're reaching for the addicts. They're in the parks preaching Jesus. So many of them seem to have like a pastoral care heart. And but we are getting some youth ministry, some worship. And what we're seeing also is even Andrew, Danny, has reached back out and said, can I come back in?
Yeah, he told me. Yeah,
it was cool.
And so that's like saying, hey, you built some trust up. Like, we're believing.
Well, I think and again, Andrew being the only one that really Sunrise was able to get church program. It's going to certainly grab some more students. I think what we've discovered, even specifically with Andrew, is you got to find the button. What pushes their button? And I mean, I'm 45 years old, have twin girls that are 17, and I know what what flips that switch for them. It's TikTok. It's viral videos. It's stuff that I kind of like think is okay, cool, but like I'm not like in it all the time. There's still like I still try to get my headphones to connect to Zoom. So I'm feeling older and older as we go through this whole technological revolution. But finding what really does motivate them. I mean, look, singing on Sunday morning. Obviously, Andrew does a great job, and but that's not going to be the thing that really to do 20% that you love. I mean, the 80% is what you have to do to get to do the 20% that you love to do. And so I think it's been an interesting moment just for him, even recently, to find what really does, kind of push that creative button. And that's what's exciting is when you see that. Yeah.
Well, right along that, speaking of Andrew, but this really applies to all students. One of the things that we have found that does trip that switch is that they feel like you are for them. So I get to consult a lot with this whole Gen Z. Churches are saying, hey, they don't work the right way. They're not motivated by money like the last generation. And what's wrong with these people? And why don't they respond in the same way? And the biggest secret, if you will, is that, well, once they feel like you're for them, then you can teach them. And if you give them a cause that they believe in, they'll outperform whatever your expectations are for them. So
absolutely.
But they're threatening, like, well, if you don't come in at 9 o'clock and leave at 5, and if you don't put in your time, and I'm going to take some money away. And they're like, I don't care about money. Like, I need enough to live on, but I don't care. So the leaders are having, anyway, so we're doing a lot of that generational, actually, and a lot of that generational information will be in one of the classes that we're teaching. The middle section of classes is all about culture and church culture. And we feel like that was a little bit missing as far as how do I really engage this culture well. The other side of that is, as students are coming in, and Anita's really good at this, as students come in, we're telling them, don't just get a degree, don't just get a piece of paper, right? What problem are you trying to solve, right? What burden do you carry, and how can we help you solve? You want to solve hunger in Cincinnati? That's a great problem, right? And here's how we'll help you solve that. Every single one of your classes is going to be, every single one of your assignments is researching how to solve problems in the hunger in Cincinnati. And when we pair you up with your mentor, maybe it's Block, maybe it's City Gospel, whoever it is, they're gonna help you solve that problem. So then the student comes like eager to learn to the classroom. Right? I don't have to motivate them. I don't have to hold their hand through it. They're hungry for it. And Anita's right. The students we're getting are hungry for this.
Well, just recently we had a situation where we just kind of started turning over all of our YouTube stuff. Obviously, in the age of COVID, we did a lot of online church. It was just a handful of people, and we still did kind of the production-ish version of that, but it was no one in the room. We're actually coming back this Sunday, and I can't tell you how excited I am to just have someone in the room to sing to, because it's a little annoying, but we did it because it was the right thing to do. But what we found out was, I noticed, and I'm not trying to make this so specific, but I noticed Andrew was kind of struggling with, he's in the basement of his house, and you're not getting a lot of that interaction with people, and he's definitely a people person. But what we did start to do is just start to throw the videos his way for editing. Now, can I do that? Sure. I've done enough of it. But he grabbed onto that and just ran with it. And we're actually doing a song this Sunday with a video interaction behind it, which speaks to the COVID and for the civil unrest and the racism and stuff. And we turned it to him, and dude, I got chills, and I hope we can put it out for people to watch eventually. Some of it's not our stuff, so it's a little tricky with copyright, but the way he did it, you could tell like he was passionate about it, and he put his heart into it. And at one point he was showing it to me yesterday, and I grabbed you by the shoulder, and we were both kind of had tears in our eyes just thinking about how impactful we hope that this will be for our people. Obviously, in a church that's mostly white, we're trying to speak to the realities of our brothers and sisters of color. And so I, I, I just think it's interesting. And, I hate that it took maybe this long for me to figure out what was really that button for him, because I'm a kind of guy like, let's just hang out. Let's go grab coffee. Let's grab lunch and we'll sing on Sunday and it'll be fun, but I don't think he was frustrated, but I think he wanted more. And now that we've figured that out, it's like, I mean, we've got like, Aaron, my boss, was like, man, I've got a ton of video stuff that we could turn over to him that I think he would just run with and do it in that 20-year-old mindset that I think is way beyond what a 45-year-old could imagine. And so it's exciting. And that's what I hope to be able to, again, this has been a great learning experience even for me, because, man, like going into this, I'm the kind of guy, let's just hang out and we'll just have fun, and at some point you do have to work and get stuff done, but I think for Andrew, I think that was where I wanted to come from it, because I think that, I didn't know the other situations he had been a part of, but I wanted him to know I was for him. And now it's funny to me, like he shares personal stuff with me, family he's struggling with. And I want to just be like, dude, a listening ear, And so I'm excited for this new season, because I hope that there's more of those stories that Sunrise can be a part of, certainly.
Well, thank you for saying that, and I'm excited. And what we're seeing this time come through is they don't all look like Andrew, so they're not in their they're coming in their 30s. It's like they were all doing life, and God called them out of it and said, no, you need to go this way. And so they're at all different stages. So it's an exciting time to see what God is doing. And to speak into that a little bit of, Danny, and what you're saying of trying to help them figure their rhythm or giving them structure and balance, I think I've heard a little bit like, I just wanted to hang out with them and I wasn't discovering. And also when these young ones come in, or sometimes even the older ones, they lack a little structure as far as ability to get things done. And so what we'll do monthly, what's really going to change about residency is what I'm calling core competency meetings. So I'm going to meet monthly, every month in a virtual meeting with all mentors. We're going to discuss a core competency. It might be time management. It might be conflict resolution. So I'll go through it with mentors, and then they will pass it on to the residents. So it's kind of a win-win. So whoever their mentor, they were a little weak on that soft skill, they get it too. They shore up and get stronger on it, and then they pass it on to the residents. So that will help put a little structure in there. It'll give them some tools to work on. So when they do the one-on-ones, they can work through some little, I say little tools to help them get stronger in that core competency. So there'll be a lot of freedom to get to know with a balance of some structure too, so that you're not blindly, because like when my mentors came, I'm like, what do I do with them? I was already busy with ministry. Like, oh my gosh, now I got to do this too. That's really how I looked at it. And so now, then I learned I loved it. So now we'll help you balance that with some structure, and we've actually got that mapped out, what the core competencies will be for each month, when we'll meet, and stuff like that. So
yeah. So now you understand why we begged Anita to be on this team, and why we're thankful that she said yes. Already bringing some major upgrades to this.
Well, I could be taking it on the front end because there's a little structure involved with it, but it produces a better way of measurement. Are we meeting the students? So I'm excited about that. You know what I really love about residency too, the field residency, is in the old days, ministry was only taught one model, one way. And Danny, you were kind of talking about this. You went to a building, you got educated, you went to a church. In field residency, we change as the culture changes, because we're out there doing it. And so we have a young guy who's coming to us from Harrison who's already leading a full-time ministry, an outreach ministry. He mentioned like, hey, I'm trying to partner with a laundromat. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm like, you're going to have church in that laundromat, dude. You're going to have church in the laundromat. And everybody kind of laughed at me. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. Here's your rolling quarters. Listen to Jesus.
I have a buddy of mine who works out of Montford Heights United Methodist, and I know his pastor really well. But Jason Taylor literally does a Bible study at Westside Brewery, and in Cheviot. And I mean, and he has I can't remember the name of it now, but it's pretty aggressive, and it definitely kicks back to the old mindset of this, the church has to be the one with the steeple, and he's like, no, church can be the place where they brew beer just around the corner. I mean, and I love when people, I call it like, well, it probably shouldn't be called this, but it's kind of like a para ministry. It's like a place outside of the conventional way that we do ministry. And I love to hear stories like that because, look, they're going to reach people that Sunrise or any other church that's associated with us, they're going to reach people we can't reach, and because they're going to be way more into the trenches than even some of us can or even probably will. So I love that story. That's awesome.
I appreciate this conversation a lot. I think I want to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end. So I'm going to hammer through one or two more things, and then Anita, you can jump in too. But if you have some questions, you can put them in. I forgot to mention at the beginning, there's a chat feature down there, or you can just save them and we'll hit them at the end. But there's a couple of groups that we're looking at. People say, hey, who's the Russell School of Ministry for? And I would say, well, certainly for those, 18 to 22-year-olds that are looking for the college degree, for sure. We're getting some of those. But we found a great deal of 20s to 30s that are feeling stuck. They're just not quite sure what to do next. And so churches are identifying them and saying, man, they're volunteering in our church. I think there might be something more here. Let me tap them on the shoulder, or even just, ask if we can give them your contact information and recommend them for the Russell School of Ministry. Then we'll follow up and see if this happens to be a good fit for them. We're finding people that are already, like I mentioned, already in churches, already serving, but have not had any ministry training. And so they said, I think I'd just feel better if I had some kind of ministry credential along with my kind of humanities bachelor or whatever it might be. We're finding some high capacity leaders in churches. They're doing a great job, and people love them, but they said, hey, I just don't have the time, or I don't have the ability to kind of pour into them the content of a class. And so if you guys can come alongside and do that, that would be great. We've got, like I mentioned, a church too that said, hey, we're creating some kind of leadership pipeline. This sounds like our leadership pipeline. They're going to have a big experiential time connected to a person. They're also going to have some kind of core courses that are being poured into. And we're fishing in all of those ponds. We even had some retirees that have come along and said, hey, I'm retiring early. I want to serve my church, but I don't have any ministry experience. Like, this might be a really great window for me. And just most recently, our team was working through a report that 65% of students have changed or canceled their college plans because of COVID. And so we're starting to say, hey, like, if you're not sure what you want to do next, like, this becomes a really great option. If you're thinking about ministry at all in the future, it doesn't cost you anything. Even if you're thinking sort of a gap year scenario, this is a great place to get started and to do something in this gap year that moves the kingdom forward. Because we have people that are donating, it's not even going to cost, it's going to be $0 to you, right? And if this is a path that you want to be on, we anticipate even some of those staying for the second year residency, but even if they don't, it's okay, right? If the kingdom gets better, however it needs to get better, we want to be a part of it. So we're doing all of that work. And then Central, our friends at Central are bringing in a master's degree. We've had several people that have said, hey, I have my bachelor's, but I'd really like to do a master's. And Central said, well, we were putting something together that looks a lot like the program you're doing, where it's a mentor in the church that's pouring into you. Like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that model. So about half of it is classes and about half of it is mentorship, but it's at the master's level. And so, hey, there's already been 3 or 4 guys that we've talked to that said, hey, I was thinking about an undergraduate, but this would be good for me. Like, maybe I can go and be a part of that. And to your point, Alex, that whole distance deal that's been kind of hurting us. Like, we love being in an urban context, but we're also a nonprofit disruptor, which means when a college reached out to us and said, hey, we're closing, is there any way that we could become RSM, but we're in a whole different state? It made us think, well, we should probably design this so that school can take everything that we're doing and use it. And when a church in Indianapolis said, hey, we want to create a leadership pipeline, but I don't know that we're going to be able to come to Cincinnati once or twice a week, then we began to design everything with that ability in mind, to say, what if we design these courses in such a way that that churches could use them, that other colleges could use them, that the network of churches could use them. So we're building it with that in mind, so that not even distance will keep this from being a reality. If it's needed somewhere, we want to help the kingdom however we need to. So a couple of ways you guys can click in. I mentioned, like, a lot of folks will just recommend somebody. Yeah, man, as soon as you start talking, I knew this 20, 30-year-old that's just sitting, that's got so much potential. I've got a high capacity volunteer. I've got a recent retiree. I've got a typical college student, whatever it is. I've got somebody in my mind that I think, yeah, this would be really good. On our website here, I just put in the chat box, like, there's a get started place. All we need is their contact. And then what happens in our system is that Anita calls them and says, hey, what problem are you trying to solve? And can we help you solve it? If we can, then we want to help you. And if we can't, we just want to be upfront about that. If you want to do ballet, that's amazing. We probably won't be any help to you that way, right? But if you want to solve this problem, you don't want to see me sachet puree and whatever. So anyway, if we can help them, we want to do that. And so anybody that you recommend will be kind of given that first call conversation. Some have asked about being a residency site. Well, what about our church? Can we be a residency site for this? Anita will connect with you on that and say, hey, here's what it takes to be a residency site. Here's the necessary paperwork. Here's kind of how this works. If you want to become a part of, we want it to be that every single person that ever graduates from RSM, you can just kind of tell, like, that is a different kind of student, man. That person knows their stuff. They're hungry, humble, they're smart, they're doing it. And so we want to protect that brand. So we're going to, if somebody wants to be a part of it, they need to be able to do the things we're asking them to do. So that everybody that graduates will have that kind of reputation. But there is a way to do that and to click in on that front. And then also on our website, there's a link there that says, hey, I want to sign up to kind of get to know more of what's happening here, or maybe you want to host a roundtable like this. There's been a couple of churches that said, hey, I've got friends. They need to hear about this. I'll take a chance on you guys, right? I'll connect with some of my buddies, and they'll pull together however many and say, hey, I want to host a roundtable and kind of let our staff know about it, or I want to let our kind of region know about it. And we would be grateful for that as well. Of course, there's always the chance to financially partner. There's no pressure at this stage. We've got other people that'll pressure you, so I don't have to. But at some point, we want to keep this absolutely $0. And so as we launch it in Indianapolis, I told the folks in Indianapolis, we're not going to launch it in Indianapolis until it's $0, right? It's such a value to us that if you can't make it free for the students, if we don't raise enough money to make it free for students, we're going to wait until that money comes in. When that money comes in, then we'll make it, and it can be free to the students, then we'll launch it in Indianapolis. And this other college, yeah, if you can't make it free for your students, you can't have it, because it's such a part of our DNA that you could make money on this, we get it, but we want people to graduate with $0, right? To have a more fruitful ministry, to not have that monkey on their back. So you can take it as soon as it can be $0 to the student. And so that fundraising piece is a big piece for us to say, hey, we want to do that and expand it in as many cities as possible. If it makes better ministry folks, then we want to do it. So, awesome. Questions, guys? What questions do you have for us?
I don't have, I guess maybe just one question. I think when we were doing the teaching church, there was, they did the site visits, and I know we hosted about 10 or so students at one point. I assume that as things kind of materialized, you'll reach out to us as far as like potentials and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Danny, I have been sending out like MailChimp campaigns, emails, and I just recently sent out a video, it's probably in your box somewhere, that calling those first connects. And in that, it also had a link to go ahead and register the dates that you would be available to do a first connect. I'll go ahead and send you that link, though, in case Can't find that email. I'll take care of you, bud. I got you. I need your first connects anyway.
I'm an artist. Some of this stuff is just, yeah. I need an admin is what I need. Totally need an admin.
My housekeeping. So
Yeah.
I'll get that to you because I really want you to meet these students, and I know you're going to love meeting them. So it's called First Connect, where
First Connect. Okay.
it make more sense when you see that come through.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex,
Awesome.
if you want to do something similar, if this as this grows and you want to do something similar at Mountain or wherever, like we can have those conversations too and say, hey, I want to have maybe our folks go through this, or I want to have our region be, one of those places where the Russell School like has a chance to do its work there. Then we can have those conversations down the road.
I, I think I would like to pursue that, Bobby, that idea of what it would look like in outside of just that local, tri-state, what that might look like. And so I realize that you probably need a cycle or two on the ground there in, Cincinnati area, and then maybe that first pilot, Indianapolis, and then maybe after that cycle, start to think what would it look like to use that either in Maryland or New York City.
Great.
But I would love to continue to be an ear listening in on the progress you guys are making.
Great. Yeah, on our website that I just sent you, I think it's something called The Link, if I'm not mistaken, that you can sign up for, and it'll kind of be our monthly newsletter, at least to let you know what's happening that way too. But you're welcome anytime, for sure.
Very good.
And also after this meeting, you're going to get a follow-up email. Danny, I hate to tell you this. You're going to get an email, a follow-up email, and it will have the link there to sign up for the link. There's another email. It's going to also have a recommendation form. So if you know somebody that you would like to refer, that'll be on there, and some other ways to stay connected. So you'll get a follow-up email too. And I'll just check back with you, Danny, and go, did you get it, Danny? Danny, did you get it?
If only my wife could just quit her job and just take care of me. But she's the one that makes the money, so I need her to stay employed.
Well, as we close, you guys should know this too, that every day at 10 a.m. since we began, or real close to when we began anyway, our team gets together and we pray for those of you that are on the front line. Our job, our purpose, if you will, is to help the church, and that doesn't mean just in the future. It also means now. So every day we're thinking about you guys and praying for you guys, and hopefully encouraging and pushing you on and cheering you on as you're doing the tough work that you're doing, especially during this time. So it kind of feels like that's the right place to close. But Anita will send you kind of again this follow-up document and give you some different ways to click in with us. But you guys, you know where to reach me anyway. So if you have questions and specifics that we can help with, we want to do that too. So.
And Bobby, I want to piggyback on what he just said as far as the prayer. One thing we want RSM to be is known for being with you guys. We don't want to be known as us. We really want it to be a we. And so there are going to be times we're going to ask you for things like First Connect visits and things like that. But it is our prayer that we're going to give you way more than you'll ever give us, that you're going to feel so supported by us and loved by us. Because without you guys on the front trenches, there is no hope to advance the gospel. And so we are praying for you. And we know, we have talked about you daily, what you must have been dealing with through this COVID, the strain. We really love you guys. And so we are sabotaging you with prayer, and we're here for you. So don't ever hesitate to say, hey, I just need a little extra this. Can you pray for me? Because we're here. That's what we want to be. We want to be your cheerleaders in the back saying, you got this. So
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's pray together, guys. Father, I'm thankful that you decided to engage this world through your church, that you continue to engage this world through your church. You could work supernaturally. You could just have us feel it in the air, but you choose to work through your people. It is a profound mystery how and why you do this, and yet we are thankful to be a part of it. And I just pray today, even as we're looking at this horizon being unique, both with COVID and with kind of racial tensions in our cities right now. God, I know you to be a God that brings good news. I know you to be a God that brings peace and reconciliation. And then you've given us the ministry of reconciliation to be part of with you. And so I pray especially for these guys that are on the front lines of that are literally pushing back the gates of hell in their cities. And I pray that you would give them more ground, give them encouragement, give them ferocity as they pursue you personally, and then as they lead others to do the same. And God, I do pray that we would be a part of the solution for your kingdom on this earth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in
inviting
today.
me into this.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in.
Bless you all. Take care of yourselves, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I
Hey,
saw-
thanks for jumping in there at the end and just sharing your heart. It was really cool to see and really cool to hear. So appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel like, did you pick up that Danny is feeling